Although I just want to say I'm a baby boomer and a plant parent, and I'm finding plant parenting much easier than my actual parenting. So yeah, I don't know what that's worth, but thank you guys so much. And if you could, maybe we'll just go down the line, and you could briefly introduce yourself and tell the people what you do.
Sure. Hi, I'm Nobles Crawford. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Consumer Activation of Couture at L'Oreal, which basically, for all intents and purposes, I'm the head of all media for Prada and Valentino fragrance, skincare, and makeup.
Hi, I'm Brandi Watkins, Director of Media at Carter's, overseeing media strategy and activation for all of our brands, which is Oshkosh, B'gosh, Carter's, and Little Planet.
I'm Chrysten Strachan. I'm with Ring. I'm their digital marketer, primarily in the retail space. So it'll be retail media and our on-site experiences across retail.
Great, thank you so much and welcome. So maybe to start out, if you could just give us a quick overview of who your core audience is and which channels are most important to you right now, because I know it's changing all the time, and how you see that changing in the next little while. Want to start with you, Nobles? We'll go right down the line.
Sure. So for us, our creative target is certainly Gen Z and millennial. But to be quite honest, though, for my brands, Prada and Valentino, as you know, their fashion brand is what leads. And what I try to do in my job is to let our skincare, fragrance, and makeup be the first entry for a luxury lifestyle for those audiences. We're the most approachable and cost-effective when it comes to your first interaction with those brands. So even though we try to create an elevated, like 360 environment around how we go to market, we still have to keep in mind that our retail outlets are Macy's, Sephora, and Ulta, and we're not selling at the Valentino store or the Prada store. And so when it comes to that, we have to take ourselves extremely seriously because these are licenses that L'Oreal owns. And so, we still have to bubble up to the fashion house, but at the same time, too, we have to make sure that we do well for the folks that may not have amazingly high disposable income, that really want a touch of luxury to improve, their vision of themselves. And so that's kind of the balance that I have to bring with my 360 go-to-market strategy.
So our core audience is parents of young children, and there's obviously a bullseye for us on new parents and first-time parents as well. And within that, towards the future, looking at Generation Z is the next generation of parents with a hyper-focus on multicultural audiences, Black customers, and Hispanic customers.
Ring has a lot of audiences, and it just depends on our retail partner, kind of like you were speaking to earlier, Nobles. So we're primarily today in those homeowners, maybe they're renters, maybe they're first-time home buyers. Some small, medium business owners is kind of an opportunity segment for us. They're typically 25 to 55 years old, but as everybody's saying, we're trying to penetrate more highly in those Gen Z audiences. And yeah, I think we'll get into kind of how that varies by retailer because the way we speak to Target is very different than Home Depot or very different from Best Buy.
Okay, great. So you're all constantly making these channel choices and you're balancing what works best for inspiration, discovery versus conversion. So we're hoping you could each describe the relationships between what you do and the data and analytics department in making those choices. How quickly can you find out what's working and what's not working, what the ROI is, and develop a new test?
I can go first.
Okay.
So we work very closely with our data analytics team. We have a team that sits with us on the media team to help us understand how our campaigns are performing, what they're driving from a incrementality perspective, and we test and learn constantly. It's very rigorous and a set cadence. So every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we're doing new tests on different channels, new platforms, new tactics, understand what's working, what's driving the business, and we're failing fast, learning fast, and making optimizations. We reiterate and optimize on an ongoing basis. So it's for us, it's very fast paced, as I'm sure with the rest of you guys who obviously work in retail, but it's a constant learning struggle for us too. So.
We are close with our BI and analytics team, but I would say being in the retail channel, there's kind of another layer of dependency on each other. So we are very close with what's working well for our brand marketing team. We're close with what's working through Amazon. And what we try to do is get insights at least monthly, if not, quarterly reactions through retail media. I mean, it's yes, fast to some degree, but I do think there's still an opportunity to be much faster through retail media. I think I answered everything on that one.
Yeah, you did. How about you?
Ooh, buddy. I know you're going to want me to say like, oh, data isn't everything. We move so quickly. Oh, no. I'm really trying not to swear. Look, So when it comes to like Prada and Valentino, first and foremost, and this is like very key to our business, we do not promo our products. Like we do not promo our products. Our D2C is probably only 2 to 3% of our revenue. Like it comes from brick and mortar, like Macy's, Sephora, and Ulta. So when we think about those things, and when you think about those retailers, they're walled gardens. They give us omni sales. Like they give us how much we've sold in the store, but they don't give us attribution. There is no closing the loop when it comes to working with them. So we can't, from a branding perspective, say this programmatic led to this. We get long lead MMX, yes, but that's like 6 months after a campaign. You can't make front end decisions on the fly. So for us, I really focus. And don't get me wrong, though, data does work into how we plan a campaign. But once we set it into the market, the brand really leads because we're more like entertainment beauty, where we're in market for like a month, maybe a month and a half with a new product, and then we're out. And we're very seasonal, kind of like Tamika said before, Mother's Day, Father's Day, holiday. There's really very little moments in between. And so like when it comes to us, branding leads. So for me, brand lift studies are usually like the most effective. And I'll be quite honest, we do work with a partner that gives us brand lift like in real time, which is quite remarkable. That's really what I look at. And then when I can look at my segments, because I really get all maniacal in my segments and stuff, and I see how brand lift is changing there with standard media, I can then use that information to bring over into providing an experience for the audience that I saw in the brand lift, like, and spend more money like doing a hyper local activation or something for those particular people. So like that's how we use data in our practice, but the brands is what leads.
Okay, great. Thanks. So influencer marketing is just a category unto itself, particularly in what you do. And each of your companies use it really differently in different channels. So for Prada, we've got celebrities. For Carter's, you have real parents talking about real spit up. It's a whole new thing. And for Ring, you have these hilarious dogs, raccoons, pizza delivery men. Could each of you outline how influencers work for you now and how that's been changing? You want to start?
Sure. Let's see. So yeah, we work with tons of celebrities. Like I work with Emma Watson, I work with Jake Gyllenhaal, Adu Takesh, Florence Pugh. Those are like our celebrity. We have an A&I division, what we call Advocacy and Influence. And I work very closely with that colleague because a lot of the parties that I throw or the sponsorships of festivals that I do, we bring them to these events. And so when we think about the cost-benefit analysis of flying these celebrities, across the world to do these things, or even bringing like our what's their name? Charlie XCX or, Alton Mason. There's tons of celebrities in beauty, as you probably know, and they're very expensive to move across everywhere. It's like, what is the cost-benefit analysis? Do we work with someone more local from an influencer perspective? We don't really do spray and pray. Like, we don't, put a brief out there, contract 3,000 influencers and run. We do a lot of seeding, and we hope that they will make a post on us, and then we take the best posts and we boost those. So, when you meet our influencer approach attacks it from two angles: the celebrity angle, and then also from just the organic, like choosing the right talent to boost for the storyline at the time. That's really how we do our magic.
Okay, Brandi, how's it working with new moms and dads?
For us, it's about driving upper funnel awareness and new product consideration and using it to scale our reach to new audiences in a very relatable and authentic way. Parents trust parents' recommendation. They trust other parents. And influencers are very important from that perspective to drive that connection and that authenticity for Carter's.
So I'll speak first from the branded side. So our brand marketing team, is there anybody in here who has not seen Ring, like a moment on a doorbell or something captured at home? I think you have all seen it, and we're really fortunate that authentic content can be served in this channel. Influencers is an amazing way to do that. I think the layer that I bring in, just on the retail media side, would be we understand intimately what our customers use our products for and what they value the most. And then my role is to make sure I understand Tamika's available audiences and our Best Buy partners, who they can access as well. And then we kind of intersect those and we reach them in a really meaningful way. So we have a pet campaign with Target, and we're using our influencer partners that way. And through Home Depot, we're going to do a fun little Halloween one. Like you mentioned, Scully. Well, we're going to lean into Halloween because guess what happens on Halloween? Everybody rings our doorbell. And so, we're kind of trying to really allow those to intersect and then use influencers to amplify those moments.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about diversity and multiculturalism. Brandi, I just want to start with you because I think, and unless you're a baby boomer who wishes your millennial children would have more children, you might not be aware of just how low the birth rate is, how much has changed, how diverse that audience is. Tell us about who these new parents are and how that's changing the Carter's game plan.
So Gen Z is a new generation of parents. I think Tamika mentioned it a little bit as well, but they are the generation that's never had the internet. They've never not had smartphones, and they're used to having the world at their fingertips. So the way they connect and communicate is very different than other generations. They're also the most diverse generation of all time, where they'll be majority black and brown versus majority white. And that's a huge shift for us in our business because babies are being born are black and brown babies. So we want to make sure that our ads and our campaigns connect with those audiences in authentic ways and are very nuanced and bespoke to those audiences as well.
So you're doing a lot with sort of bespoke content creation, and why is that so important to these young parents?
We want them to feel seen and be intentional with our messaging. In the past, they've been marginalized and not represented properly in advertising and in marketing. So being able to show them that we see them, being able to have nuance and cultural relevance is really important to make them feel connected and feel relevant to us.
Okay, great. So culture changes so fast, so does technology, and brands really need to act fast. Nobles, if you could tell us a little bit about this recent work you did with Sabrina Carpenter. I think it's a good example, and you can talk about the risk and the rewards of that.
Sure. Friendier to everybody here. Well, I'll just actually extrapolate that a little bit to kind of bring it out, because I work with a lot of folks in this capacity. And when it comes to celebrities of a certain moment, obviously Sabrina Carpenter's having a certain moment. Florence Pugh around what is it? The Marvel movie had a certain moment. So when it comes to bringing celebrities out in benefit of your brand, you have to make sure it makes sense. That is the number one thing, especially in my position where we have to, convince Mucha Prada that this is the time to bring out Emma Watson, or convince now Alessandro Michele, because he's the new creative director over at Pier Paolo who just left, that we want to bring out Florence Pugh to the iHeart Music Festival. This is why it makes sense. You have to be intentional. To your point. And really quickly, I can actually loop these two things and your previous question in this about multicultural. Because when you want to be intentional and you want to add to your brand story, multicultural certainly is, about, how we're approaching black and brown communities, what have you. But also you have to keep in mind, there's so many other stories around there. A lot of times, when I think about, how we approach, inclusion, it's about, okay, if we want to provide an experience, is it ADA compliant? We have to think about that. Okay, our seasonality around holiday, are we just talking about Christmas? We should be talking about Eid. We should be talking about Hanukkah. And it's multicultural, or even, inclusion, when you're building your story, you have to think about all of that story. And every single little piece that comes together speaks to this whole entire DEI approach that we need to have to make a difference. And the celebrities and influencers that we bring to the table to bring that story out is a major piece of that. And Sabrina Carpenter, for this, especially when it comes to Gen Z, is also it's huge. She can certainly, and honestly, she used a bomb organically in one of her TikToks, our Prada bomb. Our Prada bomb sold out of Sephora, and you know how these things work. And so maybe she speaks to Gen Z, maybe we should work with her. And it's these things happen organically, but it added to our story in an organic way. And that's how we approach that situation.
Yeah, and talk to me a little about the media for that, because I know you mentioned that was a little risky because you went a more traditional way when everyone was expecting you to go an untraditional way.
Yeah. So when it comes to Gen Z, I like to say that experience is their currency. Sure, they are a digital first demographic, no ifs, ands, or buts about that, but what do they talk about? They talk about IRL experiences. And when you really want to maximize a hyper-local activation, you have to give the people what they want. And so, when it comes to Gen Z, which, honestly, if anyone tells you they know exactly what this demographic's doing, they're fucking lying to you.
That's all right.
I try not to swear.
We're all grown up.
So hard. Yeah. I know, so close. But give the people what they want. And so, so when it comes to Gen Z, you got to listen to them and be somewhat reactive most of the time, but react fast. And that's why I got to talk to Tamika even more after this, because she really figured out the matrix, it seems.
Okay, great. So, Chrysten, retail media has turned into such an essential channel for Ring and for so many other brands. Want to tell us how it's working for you, the pros, the cons, which networks you're using the most, how varied they are? how you're combining the retail media with social media. There's a lot going on with you guys.
There's a lot in here. So I'm fortunate to oversee all of our retail media programs across the U.S. and Canada. I think our biggest partners would be Home Depot, Target, Best Buy, Costco, Lowe's. They are all dramatically different. I think we're all aware they all kind of started as a way to buy really placement on site, and that's just evolved to contextual and audience targeting on site, to off-site media, social campaigns, CTV, streaming TV, I mean, you name it, to now in-store network, right? You can buy TV placement or in-aisle spots. So like, it's quite a robust program for us across each of our retailers. I would say from a data side and the way they sell, dramatically different. And so it's really hard to kind of keep those things somewhat equal. It's also difficult from a benchmarking perspective. So we try to stay ahead and be an early adopter of anything they're testing. So if somebody's interested in testing in-store network or they're trying to launch a new channel for them, like we want to be one of the brands that are early to test and learn so that we feel like we're kind of ahead of that game, a little bit ahead of any other brands. And then the way that social, I guess, plays into that, I kind of touched on it earlier. That's just a way for us to amplify some of these major moments and stories and how we're reaching these segments that we're prioritizing. So pet's a huge one this year. If you didn't see it, we had some really cool creative. We had a Drew Barrymore partnership. We did a Target campaign, and social's just been a really effective way for us to get that message out to our core segments.
Okay, great. I want to talk about authenticity because it's so important with Gen Z, all consumers, but especially Gen Z. And I think it's been so fun for a lot of us to see how Instagram, for example, has evolved from this super polished, super filtered to this wonderful Gen Z sort of authenticity. So talk to us a little bit. You mentioned to me on the phone, we were talking about the polished parent versus the unpolished parent. And I'd love to hear more about that and why it's so important.
It's more relevant to them. As you'll see, within our new campaign we just launched for our brand platform a few weeks ago, More Than Just Cute, we're leaning into the more the unpolished parent. Previously, we were all baby smiling, baby happy, very dressed, very cute, but it's more than just being cute. Being a parent it's messy and it's chaotic, and not at 2 o'clock in the morning, but like all the time. It's messy and it's chaotic. So showing the other side of it is very relevant and very relatable for parents. So babies in applesauce, covered in mud, that feels like a real thing that happens to people every day. Leaning into that, so people are like, yeah, I was there last night. I know what you mean. It's very relevant for us, and people feel connected to us that way. So
yeah,
definitely.
How has that changed? So beauty is polished, and yet you have this unpolished thing. How's that affecting the way you guys are showing up in social?
Yeah, the only unpolished we have are the seeding influencers. Everything else you see has been gone over like 30 times over by people and then approved by one person, Mucha Prada or Pierre Paul or Alessandro Michele. So, but when we want to kind of come off like we're rugged or unpolished, we intentionally come off that way with polishing to make it look unpolished. So it's like, you don't want to meet your heroes, and that's like really the short and skinny of it on that. But again, it all kind of adds the story, because here's the deal. I mean, I know there's a bunch of other like luxury brands here tonight or today. God, look, when you're inside, it's kind of tough to anyway. But look, I mean, even if you ask them, like there is nothing that's done that's not unintentional from a very high-end luxury beauty brand or fashion brand. Everything is intentional. So that question for me, it just doesn't happen like that. Like we know everything all the time.
Mucha Prada's baby was probably never covered in applesauce, is what we're hearing. Right?
You'd probably have to ask like the tens of thousands of help that she probably had raising them. But she's a great person.
Yeah, I bet, and it's a beautiful brand. So again, Erin is on her feet, which means that we are moving to questions. Thank you guys so much, and I think we're gonna get some hands up.
Yes. Well, first, who had the $20 that the F-bomb would be what nobles would curse?
Oh, that's sure money. Someone had to have taken that bet.
No, nobody? All right. Next time, we're going to go up to 50, see if I can get any bites. Questions? Todd, don't you have a question?
I do not, Aaron.
Come on, you got to help me, bud.
First, I just want to say, this was an awesome panel. Super exciting just to hear what everybody's looking at right now. My name's Kevin Washington. I'm with Best Buy. My question's around more on just the way Omnichannel is changing and how Omnichannel it's becoming. How are you keeping up with some of the personalization is getting very one-to-one these days. Like, how are y'all thinking about that and getting extremely targeted with some of your advertising?
You guys probably answered that one better than I could.
Yeah, for personalization for us, it's a big topic. We're actually rolling out some new things in the coming weeks to be more personalized, similar to what Allison was saying from Forever 21, more personalized communication via email, via our app as well, coming out, more personalized coupons, one-to-one, as well as knowing when babies are aging out of clothes. We know when it's a baby's from 3 months to 6 months. We have that one-on-one connection with them to be able to say, hey, it's time for a new bodysuit, time for a new romper, be able to give that one-on-one messaging. So for us, it's very important that we personalize our messaging as we have all the data points to be able to do so.
I'd say through retail media, I probably don't have as dynamic capabilities to be personalized, but the way that we would build our media plans would be intentional. So if we're speaking to pet owners or we're trying to acquire new households through some sort of pet campaign, the creative will include that. And then, you know, we'll make sure that either the demographic of the influencer meets our needs or potentially whatever offsite channel we're working through is, you know, highly indexed in pet ownership as well.
Take a 30-second journey with me. So before L'Oreal, for like 2.5 years, I've been in L'Oreal 2.5 years, I was the head of media for hygiene at Reckitt. So like Lysol, Airwick Finish, Resolve Woolite, Decon, Riddex, and Easy Off. That's an order of budget for my folks out there that really care about that information. But I was there for 4 years. Before, during, and after COVID, I was running Lysol's media. And so before COVID, we were very much about personalization, very much about dynamic creative. I didn't really think is the juice worth the squeeze. We were taking a look at, you know, what our front-end metrics look like for click-through rate, but that doesn't really matter when people are buying off the shelves. Then COVID hit. I didn't need to do personalization anymore. Instead, I flipped it to education in terms of how you keep yourself safe from COVID. Lysol happens to be a part of that story. It was that where I learned that I brought into L'Oreal that I don't need to do personalization with some brands. I am selling an image. I'm selling a vision. If my customer wants to have a piece of that vision for themselves, they come to me. I don't need to go to them and be like, this is why you need Prada fragrance. One, you can't smell fragrance through a computer screen. I have to sell a vision. And so that North Star is the way that luxury, fashion, fragrance, everything works, is that you create the brand and you attract people through your brand. So personalization really doesn't mean much to me in my current position, not even with my D2C, which again is like only about 3% of my revenue. So like, you know, there's ways to do it, but for me, not so much on my radar right now.
We have time for one more question. Who's it gonna be? Ah.
I guess my question is for, Gaurav from Adherent, representing San Francisco City here. I wanted to ask a question to you, Brandi. I guess with customer experiences and multicultural marketing, you can get it right, and you can also get it really wrong. With state laws, regulations, compliance, and every state mandating what can be done, what cannot be done when it comes to targeting multicultural ethnic communities, it must make your job really hard. Yes. How do you keep up with it? How do you keep up with the legal compliance frames which are changing every month, if not even sooner?
It's a very robust process that we have. We also have an agency that we work with that they're fantastic to help us stay abreast of like what the latest trends are in multicultural marketing. And then we stay focused on two different segments. For us, it's Black and Hispanic consumers. So we focus on being authentic, finding ways to have those cultural nuances and cultural nods without being so explicit and feeling like you're like being targeted like a singled out, more so inclusive versus being excluded is what we focus our efforts on too. So.
Can I jump in on a little bit of that? I know it's for Brandi, but look, I mean, this is something that we take very seriously in beauty. When it comes, because innovation leads here. When I'm talking about, like, I've been working on different shades for our makeup with the brand team that are coming out in 2 years, trying to anticipate what the demographic looks like for Gen Z in 2 years. I was doing this 2 years ago. And when we talk about the shades that we've brought into the market for the last like year and a half, major multicultural shades coming out. What has to follow? The marketing. The way that we do that is trust the storytellers. One, the people that you have to tell that multicultural story needs to come from that community. Number one, you can't have someone trying to tell a multicultural story not coming from that community. Number two, how multicultural is your business? Really, do you have the people that you're trying to talk to in your business? That's the first fail-safe that you have to not going to get. I don't really know about regulations and such. I work in content mostly in that regard, but it's more of a pull mechanism there. And when you do that, you have to have authentic storytelling.
On that note, Nobles, Brandi, Chrysten, thank you so much. Mic drop.